As you all know, the first priority of an audit is to identify health and safety issues. The next priority is to identify cost-effective energy-saving opportunities. That requires visual inspection of various house components as well as some performance testing. The Building Analyst and BPI 1200 standards vary substantially in the requirements they set for those inspection tasks. Let's take a closer look. Both the Building Analyst and BPI 1200 standards require auditors and contractors to assess the building envelope, but they differ greatly in level of detail. The language in the BA standard implies that evaluation for insulation and air sealing opportunities is optional, up to the discretion of the auditor. If they decide to consider those improvements, the BA standard provides guidance that's very general. Here's the language included in the Building Evaluation section. First, it indicates that heat loss and saving calculations are likely to be part of an assessment, and the building must be measured to within 10% to ensure the accuracy of those calculations. Next, it provides short statements about how the insulation, windows, and doors should be assessed for their R and U values. It refers to the charts we reviewed in an earlier lesson. That's the extent of the details about insulation assessment. The BA standard also provides guidance on how to evaluate air leakage, but again, it's optional. Take a look at these statements. They only require an evaluation of air leakage when a contractor intends to add insulation or attic ventilation. It says appropriate inspection and diagnostic tests must be recommended as part of the work scope when attic insulation and/or ventilation are recommended. Then it lists what that inspection and testing entails. There are 3 requirements, and they're pretty straightforward. First, run a blower door test and complete pressure differential diagnostics. Second, visually inspect the attic for leakage points. And last, use the blower door and a smoke stick after air sealing to ensure the integrity of the work. Now, I'm not sure that's exactly the procedure I'd recommend, but that's what the BA standard says. And remember, this only applies to the attic. Leaks in the rest of the house are not mentioned here. The only other building envelope assessment required in the BA standard is an evaluation of ductwork to see if any of it's located outside of the thermal boundary. What's worth noting at this point is that when the BA standard was written, BPI was also creating several other complementary documents. One of those is the Envelope Professional Standard, which includes much more detailed requirements for insulation, air sealing, and duct sealing work. BPI 1200 includes requirements for assessing the insulation and air leakage that are much more detailed, and it lists them assembly by assembly. Let's take a look at the section for floors, which is one of the shorter ones. First, it says to determine the structure, type, and attributes, along with the presence and type of any insulation. Next, it says, when feasible, to note the location of the pressure boundary and the moisture barrier. Next, it says to note any significant sources of air leakage related to the floor construction. You should notice that all of this information is very qualitative. Is it there? And if so, where is it? The last section states that the auditor only needs to make a quantitative assessment, meaning assigning thicknesses, R values, and perm ratings if upgrades to that assembly are proposed. BPI 1200 includes this type of insulation and air leakage assessment for 4 different assemblies: the foundation, the walls, the floors, and any attics that are present. BPI 1200 also includes requirements for evaluating windows and doors. Here's the section for windows and skylights. If you remember, these are the same characteristics the BA standard used to assign U values and solar heat gain coefficients. They include frame material, number of panes, and low E coatings. But BPI 1200 doesn't provide a similar table. It leaves it up to the auditor to assign the performance figures using other sources. BPI 1200 ends this section with a statement about replacement windows meeting or exceeding ENERGY STAR specifications. The door section is laid out in a similar manner. In addition to the assembly-by-assembly inspections required for air leakage points, BPI 1200 requires that a blower door test be conducted. It doesn't detail the steps of that test. Instead, it references 3 other documented testing procedures: If you want to read through one of them, I'd suggest the one in the ResNet standards. It's written in plain English, as much as is possible for a technical document, and you can obtain that standard at no cost on the ResNet website. The Building Analyst standard doesn't document any specific inspection requirements for mechanical equipment. But again, keep in mind that when the BA standard was written, BPI was also creating other documents. The Heating Professional and AC heat pump standards cover much of this information. BPI 1200 requires a detailed inspection of each heating, cooling, and water heating appliance. There are some general requirements for all of these appliances. The service history must be evaluated, and any repair or replacement recommendations must also include a recommendation that they be done by a qualified professional, and appliances should only be operated once the auditor has verified that they're in a safe condition. Some basic information must also be noted for each appliance. This includes the brand and model number, the capacity or size, and the efficiency. For furnaces, the rated temperature rise must be noted, and for any ducted system, the maximum external static pressure must be noted. And finally, for cooling systems, the refrigerant type must be noted. BPI 1200 also includes specific inspection requirements for each equipment type. Let's take a look at the section for furnaces. It includes a lot of specific details. These include the condition of the cabinet, the duct connections, the filter, and the filter slot cover. It also includes a requirement that the auditor measure the temperature rise of the furnace and compare it to the range specified by the manufacturer. And the auditor must assess the condition of the condensate drain on condensing furnaces. BPI 1200 requires this same type of detailed assessment for 11 different appliance and distribution system types: furnaces, central air conditioners and heat pumps, ductless mini-splits, packaged terminal air conditioners, ducted distribution systems, evaporative coolers, steam heating systems, steam distribution systems, hot water heating systems, hot water distribution systems, and domestic water heaters. The Building Analyst standard doesn't include any requirement for identifying baseload energy efficiency opportunities. BPI 1200 includes detailed procedures for assessing numerous areas. These include major appliances, plug loads, pools and spas, and sump, septic, and well pumps. It also includes a detailed section with procedures for estimating the baseload energy use using utility data. The Building Analyst standard doesn't include any requirements for identifying water conservation opportunities either. BPI 1200 again includes detailed procedures for assessing numerous areas. These include shower heads, toilets and faucets, clothes washers, and irrigation systems and other exterior plumbing components. As you can see, BPI 1200 clearly includes much more detailed inspection requirements than the Building Analyst standard. BPI 1200 requires detailed assessments in 4 major categories: insulation and air sealing, mechanical equipment, baseload energy efficiency, and water conservation. The BA standard only requires insulation and air sealing evaluation when changes are recommended. It doesn't mention the other categories at all.